On March 4th, 2025, a burgundy Toyota Camry rolled into my bay just after lunch. The driver was a man in his mid-50s, calm and methodical, the kind of person who changes his oil on schedule and actually reads the service reminders. He was not panicking. He had no warning lights blazing. He had one complaint. His transmission felt different, not broken, not slipping, just different. He was slightly hesitant on cold starts, a faint shudder at highway speeds that disappeared as fast as it came. His dealership had already told him the transmission was on its way out. They quoted him just over $4,000 for a rebuild. I asked him one question: "When did you last top off the transmission fluid?" He thought about it for a moment and said he had added about half a quart a few months back when a quick lube shop told him it was a little low. I asked what fluid they used. He shrugged. Something generic they had on the shelf, something that said it was compatible with Toyota. That one sentence told me everything I needed to know, and it probably saved him $4,000. Today, I am exposing the single most common habit Toyota owners do not even know is destroying their transmission. Not aggressive driving, not towing over capacity, not neglecting service. This is something millions of people do routinely, something that feels responsible, something that looks exactly like good maintenance from the outside, and it is silently killing Toyota transmissions every single day. Once you understand what is happening inside that gearbox, you will never make this mistake again. Here is the uncomfortable truth that most Toyota owners are never told. Toyota transmissions are not generic. They are not built the same as a Ford, a Chevrolet, or a Honda. They are engineered by Aisin with tolerances and friction materials that are specifically calibrated to work with one exact type of fluid. Toyota calls it ATFWS, Automatic Transmission Fluid, World Standard. It is a low-viscosity, fully synthetic formulation with a very specific blend of friction modifiers designed to match the clutch pack materials and valve body characteristics inside Toyota's transmissions. It is not interchangeable, it is not universally compatible, and it is not a minor detail. But here is the problem. Walk into any auto parts store and pick up a bottle of generic automatic transmission fluid. Read the label carefully. You will see phrases like "suitable for most Toyota applications" or "multi-vehicle ATF, compatible with Toyota T4." Those phrases sound reassuring. They are written to sound reassuring, and they send hundreds of thousands of Toyota owners straight into expensive transmission damage every single year. The habit I am talking about is simple: topping off or servicing your Toyota's transmission with the wrong fluid. Not the wrong brand, not a cheap knockoff, the wrong specification entirely. And before you say you would never do that, think about this. Most people are not the ones putting fluid in their Toyota. The quick lube shop does it. The independent mechanic does it. The tire shop that notices the level is a little low while rotating your tires does it. And in most of those shops, there is a single jug of generic multi-vehicle ATF sitting on the shelf. The technician reaches for it because the label says it is compatible, and nobody ever mentions it to you. So you drive away, completely unaware, while the damage begins. Inside a Toyota transmission, the fluid does far more than lubricate. The friction modifiers in ATFWS directly affect how the clutch packs engage. Those clutch packs are what create smooth, precise gear changes. They are made of materials that were tested and calibrated specifically for the friction characteristics of Toyota ATFWS. When you introduce a different fluid, one with a different viscosity, different friction modifiers, different additive chemistry, those clutch packs do not engage the same way. The transmission control module tries to compensate. Shift timing adjusts. Pressure builds slightly differently. The system adapts the only way it knows how. It works harder, it runs hotter, and it wears faster. You do not feel it immediately. That is the trap. The first week after the wrong fluid is added, the transmission still shifts. Maybe a bit differently, maybe with a slight hesitation or a vague softness you cannot quite describe. The engine control unit masks it. The transmission control module adjusts. Everything feels roughly normal because modern Toyota transmissions are extraordinarily good at hiding problems in the early stages. But underneath that smooth surface, something is happening at the molecular level. The clutch plates are experiencing more slip than designed. Heat is building in cycles it was not engineered to handle. Tiny metallic particles are beginning to circulate through the fluid, and over weeks and months, those particles settle into the valve body solenoids, into the filter, and into the precision hydraulic passages that control every shift. When those passages get contaminated, pressure regulation becomes imprecise. Shifts become sluggish. Torque converter shudder appears. The transmission begins to feel vague. And eventually, the technician pulls the pan and finds debris that should not exist in a well-maintained transmission. This is what I found in that Camry. The pan had debris. The fluid was dark orange instead of the bright cherry red that healthy automatic transmission fluid ATFWS should be. Not because the owner had neglected the car, because someone used the wrong fluid on a simple top-off, and the transmission spent months quietly breaking itself from the inside. Now let me explain why this particular mistake is so dangerous on modern Toyotas. Starting in the mid-2000s, Toyota began sealing many of their transmissions. They removed the dipstick and the traditional fill tube. The average owner lost the ability to visually check or top off their own transmission fluid in the driveway. Toyota did this intentionally. One of the stated reasons was to prevent exactly the kind of mistake I just described, owners and shops adding the wrong fluid or the wrong quantity. By eliminating the dipstick, Toyota removed the casual access point. The transmission was supposed to be serviced only by technicians who understood the proper procedure. But here is the irony. Eliminating the dipstick did not prevent the wrong fluid from being used. It just made it invisible. At least with a dipstick, you could check the level yourself. You could look at the color. You could monitor what was happening. Now, the fluid level can only be checked at operating temperature using a specialized procedure that requires a scan tool to monitor fluid temperature and a level plug on the side of the transmission housing. Most quick lube shops do not do this correctly. They estimate, they assume, and sometimes they add fluid without ever properly verifying the level or confirming the correct fluid specification. This is why some Toyota owners experience transmission problems after otherwise routine service. Not because the transmission was failing, but because the service was done incorrectly with an incompatible fluid, and the sealed design made it nearly impossible for the owner to notice. And there is a second layer to this problem that almost nobody talks about. Even if the correct fluid is used, overfilling a Toyota transmission creates its own category of destruction. When the fluid level is too high, the rotating components inside the transmission begin to churn through excess fluid. The churning creates air bubbles, and air bubbles get whipped into the fluid like foam in a blender. Foamy transmission fluid cannot maintain consistent hydraulic pressure. The pump cannot move it efficiently. Solenoids fire, but pressure responses become erratic. The clutch packs cannot engage cleanly because the hydraulic signal carrying the command to engage is inconsistent and aerated. Internally, the system starves for lubrication even though there is more fluid than there should be. The transmission overheats, not because the fluid is too hot on arrival, but because the foaming prevents it from circulating and carrying heat away from the components that generate it. This is one of the most counterintuitive failures in all of automotive maintenance. More fluid causes the same symptoms as no fluid at all. And because nobody is looking at the level with a dipstick, because the sealed system hides everything, the overfill goes undetected for thousands of miles, while the damage compounds silently. The man in the Camry had received a $4,000 rebuild estimate. His transmission was not worn out. His clutch packs were not mechanically failed. What he had was fluid contamination from an incompatible product and possible overfilling from a shop that did not perform the temperature-based level check correctly. Once we drained the fluid, flushed the system properly, and refilled with genuine Toyota ATF-WS to the correct level following the proper procedure, the transmission shifted cleanly. The shudder at highway speeds was gone. The cold start hesitation was gone. He drove away with a healthy transmission and several $1,000s still in his bank account. That moment is why this video matters, because the damage is invisible until it is expensive, and the cause is a habit that looks responsible from the outside. Here is what you actually need to know to protect your Toyota's transmission. First, confirm the correct fluid specification for your exact model and year. For most Toyota and Lexus automatics sold since the mid-2000s, that specification is Toyota ATF-WS. For older models, it may be Toyota ATF Type T4. For CVT-equipped Toyotas, it is a completely different specification. These fluids are not interchangeable. Using T4 in a transmission that requires WS will cause shifting problems. Using a generic multi-vehicle fluid that claims compatibility is a gamble you should not take with a component that costs thousands of dollars to replace. Second, if any shop tells you they are going to top off your transmission fluid, ask them specifically what fluid they are using. Ask to see the bottle. Look at the specification on the label. Do not accept vague answers about compatibility. Toyota ATF-WS is widely available at dealerships, at Toyota parts counters, and through reputable suppliers like Aisin and Idemitsu who manufacture genuine WS specification fluid. It is not expensive. There is no reason for a shop to use a generic substitute except convenience. Third, understand that on newer sealed Toyota transmissions, the fluid level check is not a simple process. It requires the transmission to be at a specific operating temperature, typically between 35 and 45 degrees Celsius on the fluid temperature reading from a scan tool. The level is verified by removing a side plug and observing whether fluid drips from the hole. If fluid pours out, the transmission is overfilled. If nothing comes out, it is underfilled. This is not a procedure that can be approximated. It must be done correctly, at the right temperature, with the engine running. If a shop is not doing it this way, they are not doing it correctly. Fourth, if your transmission has already had the wrong fluid introduced, don't panic, but do not ignore it either. A drain and refill with the correct fluid done properly can remove a significant portion of the contaminated fluid. On most Toyota automatic transmissions, a single drain removes roughly 40 to 60% of the total fluid volume because the torque converter retains fluid that does not drain from the pan. Multiple drain and refill cycles, spaced out over several thousand miles, progressively dilute the remaining contaminated fluid until the system is effectively running on the correct specification. The key is to do it gently, not aggressively, and allow the transmission to operate normally between cycles, so the fluid can circulate and mix before the next service. This gradual approach matters more than people realize. If a transmission has been running on the wrong fluid for a long time and debris has accumulated, an aggressive flush with a machine that forces fluid through the system can dislodge deposits that then clog solenoids or passages that were functioning adequately before. Gradual drain and refill cycles with the correct fluid are safer and more effective for a transmission with any history of contamination. Now, I want to address a common misconception. Many Toyota owners' manuals describe the automatic transmission fluid, WS, as a lifetime fluid that never needs to be changed under normal conditions. Drivers often read that and assume it means the fluid is indestructible, that it will last the life of the vehicle no matter what. That interpretation has cost thousands of Toyota owners their transmissions. Lifetime fluid means the fluid was designed to last the expected service life of the transmission under the controlled conditions Toyota used for testing. It does not mean the fluid is immune to heat degradation, contamination from clutch wear, or breakdown over extreme mileage. Toyota's severe service schedule, buried in the back of most owners' manuals, recommends fluid changes at 30,000 to 60,000 mile intervals for vehicles that tow regularly, operate in stop-and-go traffic, drive in extreme heat, or experience any conditions that elevate transmission temperature beyond the standard testing parameters. In other words, most vehicles on real roads in real conditions need attention. Most experienced independent transmission technicians recommend servicing Toyota Automatic Transmission Fluid (WS) at intervals between 60,000 and 100,000 miles, even under normal driving conditions. Not because the fluid suddenly fails at that point, but because fresh fluid with intact additive packages provides a margin of protection that degraded fluid cannot. The cost of a fluid service is a small fraction of the cost of a transmission rebuild. That math is not complicated. Here is the summary, and it is simpler than it sounds. Toyota transmissions are precision systems calibrated for one specific fluid. That fluid has a specification number, not just a brand name. Using the wrong specification, even a product that claims compatibility, alters the friction behavior inside the clutch packs and can silently degrade the transmission over time. Overfilling causes foaming, which causes hydraulic instability, which causes the same internal starvation symptoms as running low. And the sealed design of modern Toyota transmissions means the damage is invisible until it becomes expensive. The habit of casually adding any ATF when the level looks low, or trusting a quick lube shop to use whatever they have on the shelf, is the most common owner-level transmission mistake I see in my shop. It does not feel like a mistake. It feels like maintenance, and that is exactly why it is so destructive. Before you authorize any transmission service on your Toyota, ask what fluid they are using. Verify the specification. Make sure the level check procedure is being performed correctly at the right temperature. And if you are overdue for a fluid service, do it now with the right fluid before the damage that is already happening becomes the damage you cannot undo. That Camry left my bay shifting like it did the day it left the factory. The driver sent me a message 3 weeks later. He said the shudder had not come back and the hesitation was gone. He also said he had called the quick lube shop and asked what fluid they had used on his car. They could not tell him. They did not track it. They said something like a Toyota-compatible ATF, which is a phrase that means nothing and costs everything. Now you know what that phrase actually costs, and now you know what to do instead. If this changed how you think about transmission service, hit like so more Toyota owners see it before they make this mistake. Subscribe if you want mechanics-level knowledge delivered weekly. And drop in the comments if you have ever had a shop use the wrong fluid in your car. Those stories matter because the most expensive transmission repair is not the one caused by bad luck. It is the one caused by bad information, delivered with complete confidence by someone holding the wrong bottle of fluid. You now have the right information. Use it.